What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and today I've got some secrets about this grinder for you. Not that long ago, the home grinder market was pretty small. One of the more sought after grinders was the Vario. And it's because there were so many modifications that could be done to it to make it a very respectable grinder. And it was called the Variorte, trying to turn the Vario into the more expensive older brother at Baratza, the Forte. They were adding those ditting burrs, and then they were performing what's called the alicorn alignment process. That was created by a home barista enthusiast and engineer named Jake G. Now this is a name you may have heard if you've watched a lot of my videos. He is a brilliant engineer, kind of like the god of home barista engineers, and is someone I consistently consult with. And I have a little surprise later in this video on something we worked on together for this grinder right here. You had people who were already modifying different commercial grinders like the Mazzer Super Jollies and whatnot and putting SSP burrs in them. You even had people getting KitchenAid grinders and machining parts in order to fit small SSP burrs in them. We had the incoming of the niche, which was pretty expensive. It's lessened in price, but that also ushered other players to the game. And that's when DF54 came in, when Time War came in, and all these other grinders flooded the market. But the focus is now on these really cheap $250 grinders, which is incredible. This is the DF54 grinder. It is a grinder that is produced at a factory in China and is sold all around the world under different brands. So I got this one from the United States from Espresso Outlet, and it's called the Turin DF54. Whatever your local market might have it sold as, it is the same thing. Obviously, when we're in this price range, you can't expect the ergonomics, the quality of build, the precision, etc. of something that's 2, 3, 4, even 5 times the cost. I can always let go of a lot of grievances if the flavor's really nice, especially the cheaper a grinder goes. So we're going to talk greatly about the flavor from this, but also about some of the quirks and how it compares to these others. I was planning on doing this big video of a comparison with other grinders in this price margin, but our good friend Daddy Hoff did one just a day before I've been filming this. So I'm not going to do the big comparison. You can go and watch his video, which I'll have linked below. It is fantastic, and actually we align on many of the things. The Baratza Encore only recently has started to be able to do espresso. So if you wanted espresso, you had to shoot for the Virtuoso or more expensive. Whenever you look at the fellow Opus, that just came out within the last year. When you look at the Breville Smart Grinder Pro, that has been around for a decade, and it has been in many people's homes because it was the best budget grinder you could get. That was electric, and that could do espresso. And then the Vario VS3 is also is more of a newcomer to the game within the last few years. They're all going to have their own retention. They're all going to have their own quirks with ergonomics. They're all going to have their own quirks with flavor. So what we need to really focus on is the flavor profile, because that is why we're drinking coffee daily. And of course, the cheaper you go, the smaller the burr set goes, kind of the lower the potential flavor roof is. You know I've got grinders laying everywhere, and there you go. Same angle of lean, same placement of power button. You've got the forks here, you've got the same kind of nozzle, you have the same dial ring on top, you've got the bellows, the wood accent, it's the same. The motor in the DF54 is a 250 watt single phase AC motor. This one, however, is a 150 watt AC motor. It's obviously single phase and capacitor driven because there's less torque needed for 54 millimeter burrs. Not to say it's going to stall every 2 seconds, but there is the chance if you're cold starting it with super light, and I'm saying not normal light, like super light beans, or and you're going really fine, there is a chance it could stall on you and you may need to kind of slow feed the beans in, but that is a very rare situation. Now, of course, you're not really going to see this as much on cone burrs because you need less torque in order to break through those beans. But when you have a 150 watt motor, unless you're using some sort of planetary gearbox like the niche does, you are not really going to be providing enough torque in order to really rip through everything that you want to. I think for 99.8% of use cases, you're never really going to experience stalling. And if you do, you just slow feed it and you're good. And with slow feed, I mean just kind of trickle the beans in. Maybe you like the coffee better when you do that. The burrs spin at about 1400 RPM. It's a very common RPM that a lot of grinders spin at. You have a plasma generator in here that needs to be kept clean if you want it to be effective at all. But even that, it can get dirty pretty easily. You need to keep cleaning it out. Otherwise, it's going to be static city. You have that plastic cup, which isn't the prettiest thing, but it's and it probably would be better with static if it was metal as opposed to plastic. So you can always switch that out. There are a lot of third-party companies and things that sell different accessories for these grinders, so you can always kind of pimp it out with just a couple $20. Stepless grinder. It's easy to take the top burr off. You just unscrew. You go coarser and coarser until it comes all the way off. It has 3 points of connection with the top and the bottom before you start screwing it in that have little rubber feet, and the wave spring will give you more even compression. So I like the change to wave spring. They started that with the DF53, I believe, and they've kind of put it with all of their grinders now. This burr set does quite a nice job. I mean, it gets you more into that higher potential that flat burrs can give you. It gives you a bit more of that clarity, a bit more of that sweetness, and it's nice. Granted, the window to dial this grinder in is much smaller than the cone burrs. My boy James did some particle size distributions, and here's the result. You can see there that the DF54 has a much more unimodal peak, which means you're going to have a much smaller window to get that tasty goodness pulled into your cup. And that's one of the reasons I have hypothesized in the past that the Niche Zero did so well, because how wide of a margin of error it has. You can put a coffee in, switch coffees without changing the dial, and it will pretty much pull in the same amount of time as the previous shot with the previous coffee. This will not give you that. You'll have to be more precise on dialing in, but it will open up a lot more threshold for that flavor potential. So you're able to get more out of your coffee with these burrs. When you have a DF64, a lot of people buy that with the sole intention of getting SSP burrs, or now LeBrew burrs. But that's a built-in extra $200. So you're buying a $500 grinder, and then boom, immediately 200 extra bucks. That's $700. Now, it's no secret that at 54 millimeters, there aren't SSP burrs. If you're willing to get your hands a little dirty, there are other burr sets that you can play with. In fact, one of my favorite burr sets, what I've previously called the SSP of 54 millimeters, the Ditting Steel burrs that are used in the Baratza Forte, they can work in this. This spins clockwise. Baratza Vario and Forte spin counterclockwise. So the geometry is reversed on the Ditting burrs. Well, thankfully, this is a single-phase AC unit with a capacitor, and those have the capability of switching with just a little bit of rewiring. My first attempt, I was able to reverse the motor, but the torque went completely, it went away. I could push down the burr, start it, and it wouldn't spin because I had too much load on it. I kind of pulled out every wire in here and just plug and played, and I messaged Jake G, the Alicorn alignment whiz, and I said, hey, I know this is possible. Help me. We spent like an hour troubleshooting. It was frustrating him because this is a weird motor in here, but he had mapped it all out on paper and he just said, this is what you need to do. I figured it out. We got it, baby. We got reversal. Ooh! I'm sipping the good Kool-Aid with them Ditting Steel burrs. Now, you might ask, well, what's so special about them? The geometry, as you can see, is very different, but these are optimized for like light roast coffees, low fines production. It's very, very, they're very good. I still love them, and I think they're very similar, actually, to the cup profile produced by 64 millimeter multi-purpose burrs. I don't think you're gaining that much when you go from 54 to 64 from these burrs to the multi-purpose burrs at 64. And that's why so many people had a cult following around that Alicorn alignment Variorte. This is also the same size and the same spinning direction as the ceramic burrs that you can get from Mahlkonig or from Baratza. So if you're someone that likes creamier, thicker shots, you could also do this modification. This is a dangerous thing to play around with. If you do decide to do it, the risk is on you. It's not on me. And make sure it's unplugged. You'll be good to go, because it's really not a very difficult thing. I took apart everything they gave me, the zip ties that were down there to hold things together. It's a massacre in here. So it may be a bit ugly, it may be difficult to follow, but I'll show you just briefly. And then we have the base off. So now we're in here with all the wires. As you see, mine will look different than yours because I had the original fittings and I replaced them with these. And also I have taping down the capacitor. It came with a zip tie on it, but I wanted to see what was under everything. I cut the zip tie. Anyway, don't worry about that. That dark blue that's on the power switch, still connected to the black going to the plug. The capacitor is still connected to the red wire going to the motor. The light blue that is connected to the motor is still connected to the neutral going to the plug. Our ground wire is still in place. The only thing we're doing, disconnecting the red on red. We're not going to use the red to motor anymore that was connected to the power switch. You can put, insulative tape or something to make sure it's never going to short anything. And then we take the red power switch cord and we piggyback it onto the white cord from the motor to the capacitor. It's still connected to the capacitor. We're just piggybacking the power switch red line to the capacitor as well. And that's it. Put it all back in and you have effectively switched the direction of the motor. It'll now go counterclockwise. These little fins around the burrs, they're slanted in a way to help lessen retention when it's spinning clockwise to get everything out of the chute. Now it doesn't have the slant because it's going the opposite direction. This means that there could be a bit more retention. You just need to bellow a little bit harder. If you're wanting to use this for more than just filter or turbo shots, you will need to get some sort of steel shim or something along those lines to boost up the burr on either the top or the bottom in order to allow for closer proximity between those burrs. Anyway, let's put this on. Let's actually make a daggum cup of coffee. Let's see how this works in real time. I doubt little old me will have any effect on big old Ditting, but if they could have these burrs available with their geometry reversed and the height just a little bit more, they would fit without having to mod anything. These burrs take a little longer to cut because the feed rate into the burrs is much more shallow, much thinner than it is with a more aggressive burr like the stock burrs that they have. The angles here are much more level, meaning there's going to be a slower feed rate. So you'll see how long it takes to grind for espresso using a La Pavoni 16-gram dose with a light roast. And because of the modification, the ionizer doesn't work, so you could probably modify it so it would still work. I just didn't feel like messing with those wires. Just FYI, I'm guarantee there's a way to make it work with the mod. I just didn't mess with it. So we're past chirp just barely, and I'm going to do a grind. So as you can see, even though I said the torque may be affected, we're grinding past chirp with a light roast coffee, and it's doing just fine. Lifting up, letting some of that air escape through the mushroom cap or through the air buster. I'm gonna let it sit and do the pre-infusion with steam. Then we're gonna go and manually pre-infuse. There are some drops. We're at about 3 bar. Go up to about 5 grams. Now we'll go to full pressure, up to 9. I'm just slowly descending. Slowly. There we go. All right, 35 out. There we go. 16 in, 35 out. With it's on the light side of medium, so not super light roast, but it's very fresh, and that's all the crema we got. So that gives you an idea. Very good. Super clear. The body is actually quite nice. It's a silky texture. I mean, it's just something that this was stock, the Encore, the fellow Opus, none of those can give you, but this bad boy with those Ditting burrs absolutely can, and wow. Of course, with stock burrs, it's still really nice. Super high sweetness. The acidity would not be nearly as incisive and as cutting, but still very good. Anyway, while I'm all hyped up, of course, let's brew one filter, and then we'll end this review. Got this new fresh crop Kenya from Tim Wendelboe. We're going to grind it. Pour over. Let's do it. Sparkling acidity, high clarity, really nice presentation of sweetness. silky smooth body. It is worth noting that for these burrs, you do need to season them quite a bit, but once you have them seasoned, they are going to knock your socks off. If you are in the market for a grinder that is affordable, but you don't want to miss out on what people are talking about online and, you know, everywhere else with the SSP multi-purpose, the LeBrew, blah, 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 but that's just not in your budget, doing a little reverse mod on this bad boy with the Ditting burrs is definitely worth checking out. The build quality is nice. I took a look on the inside, all metal body. The way that the motor is housed is quite nice. I just get so excited when there are more accessible things on the market that can prevent some of this FOMO. I can't tell you the amount of people I've talked with that they fear they're missing out on delicious coffee because they can't afford a $500, $600, $700, $800 grinder, and they're like, oh, if only I could get those SSP multi-purpose burrs, if only I could get that Weber Workshops EG1 or that P100 from Option O, then I would really enjoy coffee. But honestly, with this modification, with these Ditting burrs, especially for light roast lovers, is truly the new standard for the point of diminishing returns. I haven't been this excited about a grinder in a while, and honestly, my excitement was pretty excited, you know, when it was just the stock burrs. But the fact that switching the motor direction is this simple, and the Ditting burrs are that cheap, or the ceramics if you're a dark roast lover, that just adds so much more excitement to this, because now, yes, $250 still isn't the best price ever, but it is the best price for an electric grinder that actually does really nice stuff. That's something to really be excited about. You have the capability of a ZP6 electrified, and you have the capability of, a Forte, obviously, with espresso. So this is just, it's exciting. I get excited, you get excited, I hope you get excited, or you find me a crazy coffee kook who loves crazy coffee, but this is going to go to someone in my Patreon, of course, in a competition, already fitted out with the Dittings, unless they request that I reverse it again, which I will, no worries, and put the stock back in. But you'll get both sets of burrs. If you want to check out my Patreon, be a part of that competition, you can do so below. I have lots of gear that I buy and I give away, and because I buy it with Patreon funds, and we do it through competitions, yada, yada, yada. But that's all down below. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You know, if everyone who watched my video subbed, I'd be at like 600K subs, and that would be insane. So please hit the subscribe if you enjoy my stuff, even if you just peep and watch every now and then. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Begging you. I haven't beatboxed in a while, so I thought I'd throw that to you. But anyway, that's seriously enough for me. I hope that you brew something tasty today, and cheers.